Today we're going to talk about the most annoying strategies in Magic the Gathering. Also the most annoying cards that enable these strategies. And at least for me, as a creature-based player, I absolutely get my blood boiled by cards like Ensnaring Bridge, prison decks that prevent you from doing anything at all. And the Ensnaring Bridge says creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. Great, so, I mean, if you're some sort of artifact deck that spewed their hands with 0 drops, or you're some sort of mono-red deck that ritualed their hand away into Ensnaring Bridge, or if you mulliganed down, sometimes I'm like, oh, my opponent mulliganed down to 6, then my opponent mulliganed down to 5, then they mulliganed down to 4, this is great, and then they play Ensnaring Bridge on me. And now I'm absolutely forced to find an answer to this thing or I cannot do anything. And it almost looks innocent, like it's just an artifact. Just blow it up or something. But you know what? Some decks don't have those tools and I just almost always scoop to this damn thing. Alright, what else? We've got, oh, thanks so much, Dylan, for the super chats. Sorry, not for becoming a member, becoming part of the Cardboard Coffee crew. Yeah, R.I.P. Decklist reviews. R.I.P. Rest in peace. Our very long-loved segment of Coffee and MTG. Lord Magicus says the most annoying strategy is Shared Fate. My deck is useless, your deck isn't, so let's trade and I'll win with your cards. Shared Fate is, if a player would draw a card, that player removes the top card of an opponent's library from the game face down. Each player may look and play cards he or she removed from the game with Shared Fate as though they were in his or her hand. Oh god. So basically so I guess what you do is you're building a deck full of nonsense. You get the Shared Fate out, and then all of a sudden people have to play off of your deck, which is garbage, but you're going to play off of their deck, which is going to have the good stuff. Shared Fate. Shared Fate is awesome. Hey, one person's annoying deck is another person's favorite deck. We wouldn't have annoying decks out there if they weren't, like, beloved by so many people. Here, okay, this is one that I think a lot of people can resonate with. Here's the mill player to enjoy the mill salt, the amazing Wally. What are some of the key mill cards these days? We've got, a crab? What, ruined crab? Here, I'll get like ruined crab out. This is the only like card I can think of off the top of my head. When a land enters the battlefield and you control, each opponent mills 3 cards. But with a fetch land, you can mill 6 cards. There's something funny about mill in that people do not like their key cards going to their graveyard. It's like the end of the game. Oh, their win condition, the big expensive $50 card that they just spent money on, now it's in the graveyard and it's not in their library. They have no chance of drawing it anymore. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is a good one. There we go. Hideously laughing. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until that player has exiled cards with total mana value of 20 or more. And I have to say, if you lose in Commander to a mill deck, that is extra embarrassing because you had 99 cards. How do you lose to a mill player like that? Unless it's like infinite mill, like Helm of Helm of Obedience? It's the only realist, and Rest in Peace. So Rest in Peace says, you know, ETB, exile cards from graveyards. If a card would go there, exile it. Helm of Obedience says target opponent puts cards from the top of their library into his or her graveyard until they reveal a creature card. Until a creature card or X cards are put into the graveyard this way, whichever comes first. If a creature card is put into a graveyard this way, sacrifice it. But anyway, nothing is going to go to the graveyard, so you mill out the opponent's entire deck. So, mill. A lot of people absolutely hate mill. You know, I wish you could tell us, the amazing Wally, what you think. Why is it that people hate the mill strategy? I think it's because people hate their key cards getting milled into the graveyard. And I hear, because I do hear them complain about this, but maybe it goes beyond that. Maybe it's because, you know, they spent a certain amount of money on those cards. So you hit my really expensive card. Good morning, Peter Pan. Millmaster, Painter, and Grindstone. Yeah, same story. Which is legal right now, right? As Painter Serving comes into play, choose a color. All cards that aren't in play, spells, and permanents are the chosen color in addition to their other colors. And then we've got Grindstone. Mill is a fine strat, it's just boring. Amazing Wally says, you nailed it. Watching the big decks lose the win con, ideally by turn 2. The big decks. And then we got Grindstone, one generic, pay 3, tap. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. If both cards share a color, repeat this process. And of course, everything's going to be the same color because you Painter Serpent named something. All right, Viridian Shallows, any solitaire strategy where you must sit and watch your opponent dick around for 20 minutes at a time. I know the exact deck and I hate it the most. I'm hoping this deck never comes back. Jeskai Ascendancy. This is the worst combo card of all combo cards I can think of that I have ever experienced, played against, anything. I mean, maybe Eggs is worse, but I never played against Eggs. I don't think Eggs is worse because I don't really have to pay attention to what my opponent does very carefully. But with Jeskai Ascendancy, you absolutely have to. White, red, blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap those creatures. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. The idea is that this plus like Birds of Paradise could in theory get you like a win condition. So you tap Birds of Paradise to get mana, then you cast a spell. You can untap that creature, and then you get a +1/+1 counter on it. And if you play enough spells, then Birds of Paradise, in theory, could attack for victory if necessary. Assuming whenever you cast it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and you untap the creature. So the annoying part of this card is that there can be, as they're drawing cards, they can add more mana dorks to the battlefield. So you then have to pay attention to every new counter that's going on the new creatures, and the old creatures still have to be getting like they're not even really counters. They just get +1/+1 until end of turn, and you have to pay attention to all the floating mana. It's a huge pain, and it takes forever to win. Yeah, it will take, like, it takes even like 15 minutes on Moto. I'll have like some sort of, what's it called, a time lapse in my gameplay whenever I'm up against Jeskai Ascendancy. It's awful. I did see the new legendary Merfolk. Can't wait to play it. Valerio Sana says, do you know what's really annoying? Dream Hall's deck casting Laboratory. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Whoa, the farts. I have super chats here. Super chat from Balder. Thank you so much, Balder. Thank you so much this morning. Infect, Storm, Mill, also Havoc Festival, I guess. But it's such a terrible card. Infect is awful because of... Oh, there's no such thing as Infect. Okay, let's look at Glistener Elf. The ugly thing about Infect is that they can kill you on turn 2. And pretty reliably if you don't have any removal. If you have no blocker, you have no removal, you're dead. And you know who can testify to this? Tron players. When the Infect player sees an Urza Tower on the other side of the on the other side of the table, they're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be easy. I mean, assuming it's not Eldrazi Tron, then maybe it's gonna be hard because they have Chalice of the Void. But Infect is an annoying. You can't heal yourself from Infect. No, once you're infected, that's it. It's over. You're sick for life. And we've got Millmaster. Thanks so much for the super chat. A whole 1787. My all-time pet card and 1.5 strategy. Oh my god. Shahrazad. Maybe this should just be an annoying card stream. I've seen a huge uptick of this card seeing play on Twitter. Like, people are posting pictures of on Twitter of all their sub games. I don't know where they're playing this, because it's legal absolutely nowhere. Hold on, where are we going here? It's legal nowhere. It's banned in Legacy. It's banned in Vintage. It's banned in Commander, and has nowhere else to go. Is this like 93, 94 illegal? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, so what does it do? White. Create sub-games. Players leave the game in progress as it is and use the cards left in their libraries as decks with which to play a sub-game of Magic. When the sub-game is over, players shuffle these cards, return them to libraries, and resume game in progress. Okay, hold on. I'll just... Why am I reading this when I can just read this? Players play a Magic sub-game using their libraries as their decks. Each player who doesn't win the sub-game loses half their life, rounded up. Is it possible to run out of cards in the sub-games? I guess if they do, then you like try to draw a card from the turn and you lose, and you just return to the other sub-game. It was legal for a very short time. It was unbanned in Legacy in 1998. Oh, God. I can't imagine this thing being an actual legal card. The people who play this card are not worthy of MTG. I just don't know where you would go. Where do you go to find someone? Hey, you want to play against my Shahrazad deck? The key is cards exiled in subgames don't get reshuffled. Yeah, I understand that. So isn't there, in theory, if you have 4 Shahrazads in your deck and your opponent has 4 Shahrazads in their deck, could you not run out of cards in your deck playing these subgames? Sure, yes. How much do you charge to play with viewers? Nothing. It doesn't exist. Sorry, we don't have this service yet. Shahrazad inside another subgame and fork it. Oh, there you go. I just imagine there's a point where you like run out of cards. It's possible. Because does this ever no, it doesn't get exiled. Oh, that's weird. It's possible to make infinite subgames. It's like Inception, a game within a game, within a game within a game if you play 4. The storyteller of 1001 Night's Tales. Yeah, you would just deck out and lose on turn 1. Well, you would lose the sub game. Then you go to the new sub game, or the one right before it, and go back. What if you lose okay, when sub games are done, then you just reshuffle the library? Flavorful but stupid design. She, the storyteller of 1001 Night's Tales. Oh yeah, okay, I see. She's telling more and more tales. All right, where were we? Okay, we got more super chats. Thank you so much for your super chat, Arar. Banana. Any sort of stall deck that's loaded with sweepers, board wipes, kill spells, and hand disruption is the worst. So like some sort of win conditionless deck. Oh, you know, I think there were some control decks like that. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Maybe not, maybe minus the hand disruption in this case, but there were some control decks with no way to win, or very few ways to win the game outside of Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. And the whole point of the deck would be to, you know, establish your dominance. You know, you get the emblem, you're starting to draw cards like crazy, and you would think, well, how are they going to win? Well, because the control player may just deck out, but it's not going to happen because at some point you can use your Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, put target non-land permanent into its owner's library, third from the top. So you go -3. Target itself goes back in your deck, and then you just perpetually replay them out over and over and over again, while your opponent does absolutely nothing. Because as soon as you get the emblem off, whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent an opponent controls, so your opponent will get to a point where they'll just have no lands in play, no permanents in play, and you will deck them out as you keep putting the Teferi back inside your deck. Now, of course, a lot of this could be just solved by resigning, but if you think you have a chance, a slim chance of getting back into that game, then you might as well keep playing on. Oh, yeah, Banana 8-rack fam. There's the 8-rack deck. But okay, hold on. Let's just look at the rack. Yeah, that's a pretty annoying strategy. As the rack comes into play, choose an opponent. You. At the beginning of the chosen player's upkeep, the rack deals X damage to that player, where X is 3 minus the number of cards in his or her hand. And before I get into finalize the strategy of the rack, we gotta thank our sponsors, starting with FusionGamingOnline.com, my favorite store to buy all my Magic singles and products. The deal of the week this week is where you can save 15% off all Legends singles. A great deal. You always want to check in at FusionGamingOnline.com to see what their new deal of the week is every single week, because it is great. And it changes every week. Don't forget to use coupon code Nikachu at checkout, because if 15% off wasn't enough, you can get an additional 5% off all your purchases. We're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place for renting Magic cards online. Your ability to play any deck, any format, anytime you want. You can support the channel using my Mana Traders link in the description below. Or use coupon code Nikachu_9Y6 to get 10% off your first 2 months when you rent with Mana Traders for Magic the Gathering Online. Alright, so back to the rack. Just out of curiosity, do people hate the rack by any chance? I'd scoop on seeing a rack, that's it. You just scoop knowing that they're playing the rack? So the point is, you get enough of these racks out and you make sure your opponent's hand is empty through Thoughtseize, Inquisition, Raven's Crime. Raven's Crime is a really good one. What crime? The Raven's Crime. No one suspects the Raven. Target player discards a card, and you can retrace it by discarding a land and casting the spell over and over again. And then you slowly deal damage to your opponent, 1 turn at a time. Oh, you don't have any cards in your hand? That's too bad. That's too bad. I'm so sorry for you. Finally, discard actually has a purpose. And also a purpose later. There's a point where discard is useless, right? You know, you get through the opening, the mid game, your opponent players have played out their hands, and if you draw Thoughtseize or Inquisition, they're complete garbage. But in the 8-rack deck, they're still useful, because players are going to try to hold on to cards in their hand to reduce the amount of life lost by the rack. The rack. Alright. Kyle Driver, thank you so much for the super chat. My favorite strategy is Reverent Hoplite with Teleportation Circle on the field. So many tokens per turn if you have high devotion to white. What is this? Reverent Hoplite. Oops. White for generic for 1/2. When Reverent Hoplite enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens equal to your devotion to white. You know, actually, what this reminds me of is I absolutely hate players playing with too many tokens. I don't mind people playing with, like, some tokens, but if they're a giant token strategy and their strategy also has something to do with putting counters on the tokens, then it can really drag the game, and it can take long for their turns to pull off. I actually find that annoying. Lantern Control was always the one I didn't like. I know, I hated Lantern Control as well. Lantern Control. Oops, there's no such card as Lantern Control. Lantern of Insight. This is one of the most annoying combos, if we can call it like a combo. It is definitely a strategy though. So 1 generic, each player plays with the top card of his or her library revealed, and then you use a card like Codex Shredder. Codex Shredder, target player mills a card. So you can see what's on top of your opponent's library, and you're like, I just need to draw something. I'm so close to beating this damn prison player. But they can see, like, all the good stuff on top of your deck, and then they'll just mill it into the graveyard. It's like the frustration of mill taken times 20. Yeah, it's a lock. Well, it's a lock if you have enough Codex Shredders. You can get lucky and beat them. You can get lucky and beat them. Like, if you have, like, a lot of gas on top of your library, everything that you need, then maybe you can win. Eggs has to be on this list. Okay, let's look up the eggs deck. Modern Eggs Sifka. We actually looked at this deck not too long ago. Here's the deck. if I looked at and the finals between this was a Pro Tour winning deck, and the finals took like, I don't know, 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, maybe 1.5. It was like it was at least 1.5 hours. It was really, 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 really long. And the whole idea is that you're just using these eggs because you crack them. You got it, people? Chromatic Star. You crack your Chromatic Star to draw a card. Hence why the deck was called Eggs. And sift through your entire deck. And you can bring all the eggs back with things like Faith's Reward and Second Sunrise. And they actually banned Second Sunrise because this deck took too long to combo off. That's it. It's not... I mean, Second Sunrise is a good card, but the deck is banned because it just takes too long to execute. Aaron didn't leave eggs at all. It's just sitting there in the weeds. I mean, you can still play this deck. It's just hard to pull off because I think the other I think there's a 5-mana version of Faith's Reward / Second Sunrise. I think. But anyway, this was a brutal deck to play against. It qualifies as that combo deck that goes on for eternity, and you have to wait 20 minutes or more to get your opponent to win. Boulder with the super chat. Cheerios. Oh yeah, Cheerios is real pain. It's a SRAM deck, or SRAM / Pure Steel Paladin. It's frustrating because if you okay, so you have this creature. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, you draw a card. The whole deck revolves around this creature. If you kill the creature, the deck is dead. It does nothing. So what it uses is these 0-mana equipment like Bone Saw. You play a ton of these. There's so many of these that exist. 0-mana equipments that help you draw a card. And the idea is then you're going to eventually play a bunch of Bone Saw-like cards, and then you're going to, I think it's Retract. You retract it all back to your hand, all the 0-mana equipment. Then you replay all the 0-mana equipment. Draw more cards off SRAM. You're following me, people, until you find the Grape Shot. And it's like the most cheesiest way to lose. I absolutely hate it. Alright, we got Stasis plus Forgotten City. Stasis is an absolute pain by itself. Okay, players skip their untap steps at the beginning of your upkeep. Sacrifice Stasis unless you pay a blue. Everyone wants to untap their stuff. We're skipping all our untap steps. And then what's the other card? Forgotten City. Almost forgot the Forgotten City. Is this it? Forgotten City. I don't know what this is now. Is it a different card? Stasis is fine in Modern. Well, I don't know. Probably. I don't know how you break it. Or Forsaken City. All is Forsaken. It doesn't untap during your untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may remove a card in your hand from the game. If you do, untap Forsaken City. Oh, so you actually can't really abuse this thing. I thought this was going to be a combo where you can untap all your stuff. But this is a means of perpetually locking people out. But can you get ahead? So I guess what it does is, so you get to, you can remove a card in your hand from the game, which is, you know, essentially the card that you draw each turn. And to keep paying for stasis. We just talked about eggs. So you pay for stasis perpetually. But how do you win? How do you win? Or you just want to be there to be annoying? Are there any commander players that build decks strictly to be annoying? Like, it's not even a group hug deck. It's just like, I'm just here to I have no intention of winning. I have no intention of helping anyone, but I do have every intention to make this a miserable experience. Alex the Bird says yes. Playing against control sucks. Some people think they're just most basic strategies in Magic the Gathering. A vigil. Yeah, it's called Chaos decks. they deck out. Back to basics is, I guess, like any cards that lock your cards down. Okay, so like Winter Orb, cards that don't let you untap your stuff. We could say that's a strategy. Winter Orb, as long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than one land during each of their untap steps. Stasis Orb? No, Static Orb. Static Orb. If Static Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap steps. Which actually made a great combo with Opposition. Because you can use Opposition, tap an untapped creature you control, tap target artifact, creature, or land. So, on your opponent's turn, Static Orb, you leave Static Orb untapped, they only untap 2 lands. Then at the end of their turn, you tap your Static Orb, and you get to untap everything. How does Stasis... Oh, by decking people? Oh, Chronotog, but plus Vice plus Rack? Chronotog. I don't know what... Chrono something? I think there is a Tog that has something to do with time, but I don't know which one it is. Okay, Baldur is just going crazy with the super chats right now. Okay, what's the old one? Death Shadow. What's wrong with this strategy? You don't like your opponent losing all their life, going to like 5, and they're so close within reach of dying, but you can't finish them off? You play a creature, they kill it, and then all of a sudden they've got this like 8/8 beast that beats you down in 2 turns? What's wrong with that? There's something salty about like a Death Shadow. I mean, I've actually killed tons of Death Shadow players when they've put their life too low. But now I have this expectation that I should be beating them. It is a bit strange. Your opponent voluntarily puts themselves to striking distance, and you still can't close out the game, and they end up like just smashing you. And the other one, Chalice of the Void. I'm sure this is bad for the people who are Chalice of the Void. But you made your deck weak to Chalice. What can I say? There are some decks that, you know, you're not weak to Chalice, but some decks are built to, like, get Chalice on 1, Chalice on 2, Chalice on 3, and, like, sort of lock you out some sort of old-fashioned way. Any Ashiok Planeswalker for mill? Well, I have the worst one. Ashiok, was it Ashiok Dreamrender? No, it's not. What's the Ashiok that you can play cards from your opponent's deck? There's an Ashiok that you can play cards from your opponent's deck. They'll absolutely hate it. You like mill 3 cards. Oh, man, I should just look up Ashiok. Ashiok, where's it? Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. Top +2, exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. So it's essentially milling them, and then put a creature card with converted mana cost X, exiled with Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, onto the battlefield under your control. That creature is a nightmare in addition to its other types. Yeah, the OG one. The OG Weaver. So not only do you mill them, but you actually, then you get to play cards from their deck. Playing burn, then some exchange life total card. What is a very, you know, okay, actually, on this note, one of the most frustrating ways to lose the game is through life gain. Life goes on. So the only burn players can understand this pain. And I've played some red decks in my time. So you gain 4 life. If a creature died this turn, you gain 8 life instead. This is perhaps the weak... I don't know. Give me some opinions here. Is this not like one of the weakest mechanics in the game, like life gain? Like, just by itself, when life gain is attached to a creature, it's great. Like Omnath, for example. Kitchen Finks is great. But when it's just life gain on a card for no reason than to just gain life, it is terrible. So when you are losing because your opponent is intentionally playing life gain cards, prevent damage is worse. I agree. Fog. I agree. That is on the same level. Classic fog. Oh, are we going to see this? There we go. Green, prevent all the combat damage that would be dealt this turn. That is a real huge pain. Life gain on its own is terrible. Best life gain spell is green and not white. Yeah, basically. And it's the storm one, right? I can't remember what the storm one was. Life gain plus card draw is good. Yes, life gain attached to any other mechanic is great. Life gain by itself, bad. So bad. Turbo Fog, that deck was horrible. Yeah, but like, so, what's terrible is if you're losing to a Turbo Fog deck, you clearly did not have any like, you're like this one-dimensional creature deck, and you have no other means of defending yourself. Yeah, Weather the Storm. Weather the Storm. I think this is the best life gain card in the game. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it's certainly there against the decks that you want it against, like, you know, against Storm. Life gain sucks, but throw in Dina, Soul Stepper, or Veto, and it's great. Yes, all of a sudden, life gain becomes a win condition. Why would you need more life? You shouldn't plan on losing life. That's how you die. True story. You know, the good thing about Infect, going back to Infect again, at least they kill you quickly. Is that not so bad? They do you in really quickly. There are a lot of the strategies that we've talked about today, they take forever to pull off. And you have to sit through them because you might have a chance they might fizzle, like the Taking Turns deck here. Thank you so much for the super chat, Sugarcane. Taking Turns and Exhaustion, like, yeah, so Time Warp. A target player takes an extra turn after this one, and then Exhaustion. We're just learning. I think we're learning that people hate their cards not coming in, untapping. So sorcery: creatures and lands target opponent controls don't untap during his or her next untap step. So basically, it's sort of like another Time Warp because you assume your opponent's not going to do anything for the turn, and then you go take your next turn. Matt Wazix hates Living End, the one-sided board wipe. I would think you would get used to it by now. So the frustrating thing with Living End is it is a combo deck. It's a huge reanimate deck. Brings all their creatures back from the graveyard, but it wipes the board. Whatever's already there is gone. So if you have any offensive, it's destroyed. Yawgmoth's Bargain plus Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Yawgmoth's Bargain is Big Daddy Necropotence. Necropotence 2.0. Skip your draw step, but you can pay 1 life and draw a card. So if you got 39 life, no problem. What was... Oh, Boulder says, I love life gain. Also Cascade. Thanks so much for the super chat, Boulder. Boulder with the super... What is this, like the 12th super chat today? What was the other card? Sheoldred something. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Death Touch. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Oh, God! Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. Oh, this is a new card. Are they going to ban this, then? What do you guys think? This is going to be brutal. Oh, no, hold on. This thing is banned in Commander. It's only legal in, I was thinking of Necropotence. So Necropotence does not technically draw cards. So this is banned in Commander. This is banned in Legacy. It's legal in Vintage. They can't allow this in Legacy formats. Necropotence. This doesn't say it draws a card. When you discard a card, exile a card from your graveyard, and you put all the cards. Yeah, okay, so you can't abuse this. Sheoldred cannot be abused. Yes, in theory, it's going to be an annoying combo, though. Whoops, where am I going? Remember to... Elixir of Immortality, Nephalia Drownyard. Oh my god. Elixir of Immortality. Nephal... I don't remember the Nephalia Drown Yard. Okay, target player mills 3 cards. Was there a deck that played this? I mean, yeah, I could see this as a win condition. So you basically, if you're a control deck, you have no way of winning the game. You can keep playing this to keep shuffling Elixir of Immortality and your graveyard into your library. You never deck out, and then you deck your opponent out with the Nephalia Drown Yard. I don't remember this deck, though. Remember 2014. Pan Glacial Worm. Is this a strategy by itself? While you're searching your library, you may play Pan Glacial Worm from your library. Is there some strategy you hate with this card? Oh, was it a blue-eye control deck reduke click? Well, it had to have been Esper, right? There's some black in here. Ivan Flock's deck. No win cons, Sphinx's Revelation, Elixir of Immortality. All board wipes and removal. Oh, was this a standard deck? I don't think this was modern. I think this is a standard deck, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there was this Sphinx's Revelation, no win condition type of deck. I hate losing to Bane Ally Blackguard. Thanks so much for the super chat, Grubby. Bane Ally Blackguard. What do we have here? Black 1 generic for a 1/3. You lose to this card? I'm in the field of procurement, and business is good. The guilds want all kinds of maps and relics these days, though what they want them for, I'm not quite sure. Who brings this to... Who plays this and beats you up with this card? You have to work really, really hard in order to win with this creature. It's like an achievement unlocked. Thomas with the super chat. Thanks so much, Thomas. Last F&M versus Living End. I don't have Graveyard Hate in Tron, so I just discarded on the draw. Turn 1 Worm Coil. Turn 2 Sundering Titan. Oh, did you just keep discarding cards? But you know, that can backfire, you know. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. I'm just trying to think about it. So if you start the game off... So back to the Living End discussion. Thomas is up against Living End. He's playing Tron. He's got a bunch of big creatures in his hand. And he decides to not play anything. Turn 1, discard his Worm Coil Engine. All of a sudden, you're the one being annoying. You have the annoying strat. You're Ulamog. But the way this sort of backfires is if they don't play Living End, and they decide to just cast their creatures by turn 3 and turn 4. But then at this point, I guess you can just start playing Tron lands and put an Ugin in play or something. Book of Exalted Deeds and Faithless Haven. Did anyone play against this in Historic? I can't remember. Was this a Historic combo? This was, oh, get Faithless Haven. Faithless Haven. So the deal is, you got this one creature that you can pay 3 snow. Faithless Haven becomes a 4/3 creature with vigilance, and all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. But the all creature types is relevant because the Book of Exalted Deeds says, white, 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 exile the Book of Exalted Deeds, put an enlightened counter on target angel. It gains you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Activate only as a sorcery. So, you activate you create your Faithless Haven, then you put the what's it called? The enlightened counter on your Faithless Haven, and now you can't lose the game. Sorry, you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. Then your creature can turn back into a land, and now it's untouchable unless you have land hate. Please include Dream Halls plus Lobotomy? I don't even know what this is. Dream Halls. Okay, Dream Halls is... Rather tthan pay the mana cost for a spell, its controller may discard a card that shares a color with that spell. Rather than pay the mana cost, controller may discard a card that shares. Okay. And then lobotomy. Look at target player's hand. Choose a card other than a basic land card from it. Search that player's graveyard, hand, and library for all cards with the same name as the chosen card. And remove them from the game. That player shuffles his or her library. I don't get it. Rather than pay the mana cost for a spell. How does this get annoying and out of control? So you use Dream Halls to cast draw spells for free. Shuffle continuously the library to exile the opponent's hand and library in a 2-hour combo. Use Dream Halls to cast draw spells for free. Shuffle continuously the library to exile. Oh, you mean, are you like reshuffling lobotomy back into your deck? I think that's what you're trying to do. I think that's it, if I understand this correctly. I don't get, why do I not get it? Are you just reshuffling this deck back into, the card back into the deck, and then you just slowly exile their entire deck? The target player's hand, choose a card from a basic land. Yes, exactly. Okay. I get it. That sounds like... Well, if the opponent forced you to play this out, I don't know who would be more stupid. The person who plays this combo out or the person who wants this combo to get played out. Because why would you want to wait 2 hours for the game to end? Thank you so much for the super chat, Balder. You're taking over the show here. Emrakul/Eldrazi or Colorless BS. I'll just get Emrakul. One thing that people, it was this Rise of the Eldrazi, which was the original set that Emrakul came out of. It was really fun to play. But one thing that people did not find fun is all their permanents getting blown up. And I think that's one of the main reasons, you know, Emrakul is banned in Commander. It's funny, Emrakul is banned. Of all the things, Emrakul is banned in Commander. You should have a home, Emrakul. You should have a home, Emmy. I guess your home is Modern and Legacy and all the other formats. But yeah, you just wipe out one person's entire board and they're basically left for dead. What else do you got here, Boulder? You also have broken Simic decks. I don't know. What does that mean? Something with Oko, Thief of Crowns? That was a Simic card. What else do we have here? We got Gubby! Or sorry, Grubby. Thanks so much for the super chats, guys. Solemnity plus 9 lives and also the Scurry Oak combo. Okay, let's look at the Solemnity. Because this is frustrating. Players can't get counters. This is really frustrating. Players can't get counters. Counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. And then you have, what was it? 9 lives. 9 lives says hexproof. If a source would deal damage to you, prevent that much damage and put an incarnation counter on 9 lives. When there are 9 or more incarnation counters on 9 lives, exile it. When 9 lives leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. But the problem is, thanks to Solemnity, players can't get counters, and counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. And what is 9 lives? It's an enchantment. So that means you can no longer deal any damage to the person with 9 lives. And it has hexproof. So you can't even touch the thing. You have to touch this thing first, and then after you blow up Solemnity, then you can start going to town on your opponent's life total. This is actually... I hate these types of cards. It completely deflates any gas I had, or deflates the air in my tires, I should say. Apologies to every player whose permanents I have destroyed via Emrakul. Yeah, tell them in advance before you start playing the game. I am really sorry in advance for what I'm about to do to you, but you're about to have no permanents in play. Vigo says, Jin Gataxias, Progress, Tyrant, plus Ghostly Fricker. Oh god. Is this a real combo? Jin Gataxias. I hope this is easy to understand. Which one? Oh, Progress, Tyrant. I've got to pay very close attention to how you name these cards. Sometimes I miss it. Plus go. Okay, so what does Jin Gitaxias do? Something to the effect of whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. And whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. Okay, that's fine. Then you want to Ghostly Flicker. Oh, so you Ghostly Flicker your Jin Gitaxias to get the ability all over again? Yeah, exile 2 artifact creatures and or lands you control, then return those lands to the battlefield under your control. Okay, hold on. So how does this work? You may copy it. So you get 2 copies of Jin Gitaxias through Ghostly Flicker, and then you can Narset's Reversal. Copy an instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy. So infinitely blinking your Jin Gitaxias. I faced this deck once and for some reason had a Castigate in my deck and ruined them. I have no idea what that is. Rodham says, the most annoying strategy is to do a Rule 0 talk and force everyone to play decks that do nothing. Alright, everyone. We're gonna play nice, smooth, vanilla creature commander. That's got to be a discussion. What are the most annoying Rule 0 conversations? Or I don't know. Is Rule 0 painful? I don't go through Rule 0. Rule 0 in Modern is like you bring the best deck and beat your opponent's face with it, and if you don't like it, you cry to Wizards of the Coast to ban something. That's how Rule 0 works in Modern. Master of Waves? I wouldn't call this a strategy, but as a singular card, yes, this is very frustrating. At least if I can get a lot of elementals. Especially coming from the Merfolk deck. A lot of people think, oh, I'm up against Merfolk, this is going to be an easy game. After all, Merfolk sucks. And then I play Master of Waves and they realize, oh, this can't be targeted by like half of my removal suite. Especially because it has protection from red, and they're going to die to all the elemental tokens. Knowledge Pool / Rule of Law. Imprint enters the battlefield. Each player exiles the top card of... Each player exiles the top 3 cards of their library. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it. If the player does, he or she may cast another non-land card exiled with Knowledge Pool without paying... Oh, and then you Rule of Law. Says that you can only play 1 spell each turn. So you play your spell. That's it. You just can't play... Wait, so no one does anything? How does anyone win the game? So, like, Knowledge Pool plus Rule of Law. The game is... Like, whatever's on the board is it. If I understand this correctly. Or I guess you can add creature lands to the battlefield. Adding creature lands would still work, because you can still draw cards. You can still draw cards. So if you add lands or creatures that can do something, then that would work. Frank says, my playgroup and I have agreed to not play dumb Modern Legacy strats that just win on turn 2 and turns hundreds of dollars of deck building into fleeting moments of pointlessness. So is it a good thing or a bad thing? Kenny with the super chat. Pestilence plus Stuffy Doll plus Pariah Shield. Pestilence? Oh, is this the thing that deals damage to everyone? Yeah, at end of turn, if there are no creatures in play, sacrifice Pestilence, but you can deal 1 damage to each creature and each player. But then you have the Stuffy Doll, which you're going to name someone. Stuffy Doll. It's indestructible, so it's always going to be on the battlefield, so Pestilence ain't going nowhere. As it enters the battlefield, you choose a player. Whenever Stuffy Doll is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. And it can deal 1 damage to itself. And then you have Pariah Shield. This sounds like an old-fashioned sort of fort combo. Oh, I don't remember this card. Okay, 5 mana. All damage that would be dealt to you is dealt to equipped creature instead. Oh, it's a giant equipment. All right, so all damage dealt to you goes to the stuffy doll, dealing damage to everybody else. Has anyone lost a stuffy doll before? How did it feel? How does it feel to lose to the doll? Stuffy doll is better with a guilty conscience. Oh yeah, that's a combo as well. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage, a guilty conscience deals that much damage to enchanted creature. And it will deal damage to somebody, and then it will get whenever enchanted creature deals damage, guilty conscience deals that much damage to enchanted creature, and so you deal infinite amounts of damage. So you deal damage to somebody, deals damage to the doll, which will deal to you, which deals to the doll, and then you be dead. Stuffy doll is just worse brash taunter. Stuffy doll, what's the benefit of damage to itself? Well, that's the flavor, right? That's the flavor. It's a doll. Don't you know those cursed dolls? They poke a needle through the hand of the doll, and then all of a sudden the cursed person can feel pain in their hand. That's the whole idea. You deal damage to the doll. It's funny that it's indestructible. That's the first time I've seen indestructible. Welcome to the keyword. Oh my god, that was annoying. It wasn't technically a lock, but it was enough to stall you out to lose. Mystic Sanctuary. Commander players will never know. And Mystic Sanctuary plus Cryptic Command. So the idea is you, like, tap all creatures your opponents control, and then you bounce. What you do with Cryptic Command is you bounce back to your hand the Mystic Sanctuary, and then you replay Mystic Sanctuary to put Cryptic Command back on top of your deck. And then you needed some way of drawing a card, so you could draw it with, like, let's just say Uro. Uro was, like, the way. Uro Titan. Uro was, like, the main way of redrawing your card, and then you could draw your Cryptic Command and then repeat the process, basically, an infinite number of times. As a Merfolk player, Fury plus Undying Malice is pain. Or just Fury plus... Okay, let's look at Fury and then Undying Malice. But Ephemerate works too. Fury, deal 4 damage, divide as... you know what? This is not for just the Merfolk players. This is any deck that's playing with creatures, really. And then Undying Malice. 4 damage deal to all your creatures. And until end of turn. Target creature gains whenever this creature dies. Return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So you evoke the Fury for free with the evoke trigger on the stack, Undying Malice, and it's going to come back. And then basically deal 8 damage to everything. Is there something called Voodoo Doll? At the beginning of your upkeep, put a pin counter on Voodoo Doll. At the beginning of your end step, if Voodoo Doll is untapped, sacrifice it and it deals damage equal to the number of pin counters on it to you. You can pay XX, tap Voodoo Doll deals X damage to target creature or player. X is the number of pin counters on Voodoo Doll. So there's a lot of doll strategies out there. Good God, Balder. You shouldn't have. What is it, payday today? It is a Friday. My last super chat to the Merfolk Master. Sorry for stealing the show. Tax decks. Okay, what are some taxing cards? What is everyone's most despised taxing cards? Because tons of people hate this. I can know one off the top of my head. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. The classic taxing card. No one wants to pay tax. Who wants to pay? No one wants to pay taxes. Even in Magic the Gathering. So white 1 generic first strike. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. Leonin Arbiter. Let it all out. Let it all out. It's therapy session right now. You have to, if you want to search your library, you got to pay 2 additional mana. Rhystic Study. Those damn tax decks. No one even wants to pay the tax for this. They're like, okay, whatever. Draw a card. Draw a card. Does anyone pay the tax for Rhystic Study? Let me know in the comments section. Esper Sentinel. That's a new. It's the new Rhystic study, actually. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. They gave white Rhystic study for 1 mana in form of a creature. Oh god, this card is awful. Grand Arbiter. That should be good enough. Well, there's 2 Grand Arbiters. Grand Arbiter Augustine the Fourth, if I read my Roman numerals correctly. White spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Blue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. But spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast. How unfair. Winter Orb? We talked about this earlier. Not technically a taxing card, but I guess it still taxes your mana like crazy anyway. Do people look at Rule of Law like a taxing card? Playing 1 spell a turn? Gadok Teague. Gadok Teague. Non-creature spells with converted mana cost 4 or greater can't be cast, so just forget about it. Non-creature spells with X in their mana cost can't be cast. No one likes taxes. Ooh, Trinisphere. Is Trinisphere a popular card in Commander? I find this card would be awkward because, like, a lot of stuff is expensive in Commander. So pay 3. As long as Trinisphere is untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 mana to cast costs 3 mana to cast. So no onesies, 0s, or 2s. Oh, Mystic Remora. When did that card get good? I never heard of Mystic Remora until, like, okay, I can't remember who said it. Mystic Remora. I never heard of this card ever, and then, I don't know, like 3 months ago, like, everyone's talking about it. Let's go to the most reliable source of MTG prices. Mystic Remora. Was it always good? I guess so. Starting around 2017, the Mystic Remora had been discovered and just slowly went up. It's not even on the reserve list. Mana Tithe. You counter something with this, achievement unlocked. Plus you peeved off your opponent so bad. Kind of funny, land tax isn't an actual tax effect. Yeah, true story. It does the opposite. It actually gives you land. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more land than you, you may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them, then put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. Smothering Tithe. Oh yeah, whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a treasure token. Who's gonna pay the 2? That is so expensive. No one's gonna pay the 2 here. Oh, what is that Scoot Beetle? Is it Scoot Beetle? Oh, what's the Scoot thing? It's Scoot something. It is a really stupid Scoot Mob. Or is it Scoot? No. Scoot Swarm. Landfall. Whenever a land enters... How does this... Okay, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Scoot Swarm instead. So these are very frustrating combo decks to play against. Or I don't know if I want to even call it a combo deck, but decks that like load the board up on Scoot Swarms on Magic Arena, and they've got a billion Scoot Swarms on the battlefield, and they have like a million triggers that you have to wait to let resolve. And then blocking the creatures are impossible. I mean, that's why you resign at that point. If you have a million creatures, though, to block the million Scoot Swarms, then that's a huge pain. Angel's life gain is very annoying. How do you deal with the value? You can't. It's unbeatable. Damping Sphere, that's another one. It took to the end of the video to talk about taxing effects. Taxazi. Like the Eldrazian Taxes deck. Scoot Swarm plus Mutate. Wow, there's not... There appears to not be a single card called Mutate in Magic the Gathering. That's weird. Oh, of course! Teferi Time Raveler. And Dovin Hand of Control. Okay, we'll just go with these 2 last cards. Okay, Teferi Time Raveler. Any deck that revolves its strategy around you not being able to play at instant speed. Teferi Time Raveler has been frustrating people, turning Magic the Gathering into Hearthstone ever since War of the Spark. And then you also said Dovin Hand of Control. Oh, we gotta throw that one in there. Approach of the Second Sun, absolutely. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells your opponent's cast cost 1 more to cast. There you go. They're more taxing effects. Approach of the Second Sun. This is gonna be last one. If Approach of the Second Sun was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun, you win this game. You win the game. Otherwise, put Approach of the Second Sun into its owner's library, 7th from the top, and you gain 7 life. So you gain some life, and you know that your death is on the way, because it's only about, what, 7 cards deep. Alright, oh, Tabernacle. That's like the ultimate Tabernacle of Pendril. I guess we could have like one Coffee and MTG, we just talk about taxes. Tabernacle. Oh, it's called the Tabernacle of Pendril Vale. I keep forgetting about that. All creatures have at the beginning of your upkeep sacrifice this creature unless you pay 1. And of course, you have a bunch of creatures. It defeats the purpose of playing like regular, honest Magic. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. That's it for Coffee and MTG today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you. And if you're watching on the replay, you want to be part of the action, you got to be here 8 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, Monday to Friday. Thank you so much for all the super chats, everyone. It was an insane day for super chats. And everyone, thanks for becoming members of Coffee and MTG. Lets me know that we got to keep doing this every single day. I feel the appreciation. But thank you. If there's anyone who appreciates somebody, it's me appreciating all you guys, because without all of you, there'd be no show. You guys are the show, and you guys make Coffee and MTG special every day. So keep brewing up those coffees, and we'll keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you the next